Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are here again to talk to the head coach of True North Motivation. That's right, Spring Lake, North Carolina. He lives right outside of Fort Liberty, but he's helping so many all over. Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. It's another Monday. It's another week down and another week closer to my goals.
Yay! Well, for new time listeners today who may not be familiar with what you do as a coach, first and foremost, please introduce yourself to start.
All right. I'm Chris Barthelme. I've been coaching for almost 20 years now, in and out of the military and some other various areas. I coach in fitness, nutrition, and in a bunch of life areas, mainly around relationship trauma and some other grief counseling type stuff. So I kind of find my practice is kind of like an all-inclusive, because I believe that if we want to hit fitness goals, we have to make sure our mind's right. If we want to hit our nutrition goals, we want to make sure that we have the discipline, which fitness helps us with. And same thing with relationships. If we're healthy in a few of our areas, it usually permeates into other ones as well. So
All right. Well, how can we contact you? Would you mind sharing the website, phone number, social media pages?
absolutely. So on social media, you can find me at True North Motivation on Instagram. And then I have my website, tncoachingcollective.com, where you can find out more about me. You can also book or schedule a session with me for life, fitness, or nutrition coaching as well.
Perfect. I know we focused last time a lot on the life coaching as well, but I think today you want to kind of dive in a little more to the fitness and nutrition side of things to start.
Absolutely. That's where I got my start, so to speak, in coaching. The military gave me a lot of knowledge, and then I've got a lot of certifications to back me as well. And I find that it's just, to me, it is my true passion. It's what
Yep.
keeps me disciplined in all areas of my life. So it's always just been that bread and butter of what I do. So it's just something I have a real passion for.
All right. And by the way, how many years you've been doing this? And it's just always important to tell a little about your background because some people don't know how unique you are. And in your former career, please share.
So I've been coaching in the fitness area on and off, basically. It just, as clients kind of come in, everything was word of mouth. But I've been doing that since about 2004. So it's going on 20 years now. It'll be basically 20 years in May of this year. So
You're so modest. I'm talking you as a veteran here, right? Come on.
absolutely. So
Big
while I
years
was
you
in the
spent.
military, that's why I didn't have too many clients, because I was trying to keep the balance of the military life and fitness and nutrition coaching. So it was kind of a back burner. And then I
Yeah.
got out in 2013, and I kind of missed that same camaraderie. So I started using what I knew about fitness and nutrition to kind of move into
Yeah.
the life coaching and everything. So I've been doing coaching for almost 20 years now, in all sorts of realms, anywhere that I have experience where I feel like I can help somebody get better in life.
Got it. Well, that's the one thing I remember most, in particular on the website. Personally, professionally trained, and then it was proven in combat. So, yes, thank you
Absolutely.
for that. And that's awesome. So, let's talk fitness and nutrition. Sorry to interrupt, but I had to let them know that's an important aspect of who you are as a person. So,
Well,
how does
thank
it
you.
all work? What are some of the type of things you're helping people with? And I love hearing about these people who are now like buff, like didn't get it, didn't know how to eat right, didn't know how to work out, and bam. It's
Well, and
always great.
a lot of times I find people have pretty good knowledge of where they want to be at. They have pretty good knowledge of what they're doing inside the gym and with nutrition, but it's like they don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. So it's getting that accountability that they need. So as a fitness coach, I not only give you a workout plan, right? We talk fitness on a weekly basis. We have a 30-minute call. We talk different principles of fitness so we can grow your knowledge, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be your coach forever. I want to be your
Yeah.
coach until you have flown the coop, so to speak. Like a
Yep.
little child, push them out and they go, right? So we do 30-minute sessions once a week to kind of make sure we understand different principles of fitness. And then we do the actual workout plan. We do all sorts of stuff as far as like understanding timing of workouts. We talk about different muscle movement techniques. So that way we make sure that we're getting your goal. Because some people will work out in a way that is more of like muscle building. Some
Yeah.
people are, but they want to lose weight. So we have to worry about what is the end goal. So,
Yeah.
like I said, people have knowledge a lot of times, but they're just not putting it in the right direction,
Mm.
And so we make sure that the goal meets, what they're doing in fitness and what they're doing in nutrition meets the goal, because
Okay.
they may not have bad fitness and nutrition. They just aren't putting it towards the goal that they want.
Got it. So how do you get them focused and get them get their goal list out? What do you do? How does it work?
So basically, as we do the daily check-ins, we start worrying about discipline. We start worrying about the consistency, because those are
Okay.
usually the biggest areas that people struggle with the most. And this is where the life coaching portion kind of comes in, because as I check in with them, I make sure to ask them, how are they doing for the day? Not just, did you get
Yeah.
your workout in?
Yeah.
I show that I actually care about them and I'm vested in their actual success in the area. So we talk other things, because a lot of times people don't go to the gym because they get exhausted from the other things in life. So we work on some of the stress management techniques, because even if we're eating right, even if we've got the greatest workout plan on earth, if we're not dealing with the stress in our lives, our cortisol levels are going to be increasing, which means we're going to retain fat in those areas that nobody likes it, the underarm, the sides, love handles, right?
Yeah.
So by working on where somebody is mentally and making sure I help them unpack that stress,
Okay.
we end up seeing that a lot of times just having someone to talk to in that realm brings them back to center and gets them back to the consistency and discipline they know they're capable of, but just have been kind of blocked from because of the stress.
Got it. Oh, so what is it? It's cortisol. Is that the word that you mentioned?
Cortisol, it's a stress hormone that
Got
the
it.
body increases that as we deal with stress. It's kind of like the body's response to that. So
Oh my goodness.
cortisol then helps us to hold on to fat, and a lot of times it's in the places we really don't want to hold on to that fat. So that's part of where I talk with my client too. When we intake them, I have a full questionnaire that talks about medical history. We talk about, where are you holding fat, so I can see if it's fat from overeating or fat from stress, so I can start really diving into what is the reason that we're holding on to weight, and where is that weight being held on to, has a big telltale sign as to what the body is doing when it
Yeah.
processes the nutrients. So it's a bigger picture kind of concept. We don't just look at it as, here's a cookie cutter workout program,
Okay.
here's a cookie cutter nutrition program. I build programs for people that have type 2 diabetes, right? I have diet plans that I build for people that have celiac disease, which is the gluten-free disease, as we call it, right? Because
Yep.
when you have celiac, you're allergic to gluten itself. So we have to build the plan around the person. And a
Okay.
lot of the nutrition people I find out there in the industry these days, they do cookie cutter programs,
Yep.
and they really aren't designed to make the individual get to where they want to go. And so we individualize everything. And I treat nutrition and fitness kind of like an auto mechanic. I need to know all the symptoms of what your car's doing to know what's wrong with it. So on a daily basis on my check-ins, along with asking where your stress levels are at, I also talk things like, how is your energy level? Are you achy? Where are you achy at? Are you sore? All those different things. Do you feel bloated? That's a big one
Uh,
that we ask, because people don't realize that feeling bloat or feeling tenderness or soreness in certain
yeah.
areas can signal to other things. Funny story is, I have a client right now we're working with, and she's food sensitive to a lot of things. Well, one of the things that she hadn't been telling me about that came out was that her big toe was sore. And I
Okay.
said immediately, the first thing I thought of was, I have a feeling you might have gout.
Oh my
And
gosh.
by understanding that, we understand that that is the way the body is processing some of the carbohydrates that go in. And so it isn't necessarily that she's sensitive to those foods. She's sensitive to some of the things that she's basically backing up in her system. So
Yeah.
everything that happens in the body is a symptom of a larger root cause. And by taking that kind of holistic approach, we're able to
Yeah.
really figure out what the body is doing and why it's doing it, and be able to pull them out of those food sensitivities by just cleaning up the diet, trying to make sure that we don't have too much of one food or chemical in our body at any given time. So, like I said, it's a holistic approach. It's not specific to, oh, well, if you just eat this many carbs and this much protein and you eat this many meals a day, that you're gonna lose weight. We have to look at it from a larger perspective and for the individual when we do it.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. That's funny you mentioned. I remember at the time my mom had gout, and then long story short, we're with my friend who was having this pain in his toe, and she's like, "It's gout, it's gout." Oh, turned out it was gout, and it's like she's like, "Oh, I have the medication in my pocketbook." But the problem is that lactic acid. What do I call it? I'm not familiar. The exact terminology, what it is that builds up, right?
Yep, it builds up in the system. It's basically saying that there's a kidney malfunction,
Yeah.
right? The kidney is not processing it out. You're either not you're getting too much of it when you're eating, or you're actually you're not able to express it fast enough. So, and a lot of times it comes from things like eating too much red meat, but
Yeah.
meat isn't usually the signal of the problem. There's underlying issues that are going on. Same thing for when we see people that have Crohn's disease, right? Crohn's disease can signal that there's a lot of trauma
Yeah.
going on. And we know that book, there's a book out there that says the body keeps score. And it talks about how the body holds on to trauma. And a lot of it surrounds the gut. The gut is where
Yeah.
a lot of the problems end up showing up between the gallbladder, the kidneys, the stomach, the intestines, the colon. We think that the problem is that we're just having a problem digesting food, but that's also a symptom of elevated stress and some malfunctions from also eating the wrong things over years.
Yep.
Eating some refined sugars, eating refined carbohydrates, they do damage on the system. And so a lot of times too, it's just cleaning up that eating to eat whole foods and eat the proper balance of those foods, because any food that we have that is a whole food, when we consume too much of it, is going to cause a problem. Berries are great, but if you eat too much, as far as blueberries,
Hey,
strawberries, pineapple,
diverticulitis is next.
yes, yep, you can create problems like that. So by looking at what the body is saying, like Crohn's disease, diverticulitis, or for gout, we're looking at
Okay.
we're not looking to put medicine to it. We're saying, what
Okay.
is the underlying cause? And usually it goes back to something in the eating habits.
Okay.
So we examine what they have been eating, change their diet to something that fits a little bit better as far as the balance of it. And a lot of times those things clear up naturally on their own, but it does take time. It's not something that, like, a medicine will fix immediately.
Yeah.
What we do ends up fixing the problem long term. So
Interesting.
it all started because I have a thyroid issue.
Oh.
I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. What was that, 2013,
Oh,
2014?
wow.
And Graves' disease is an overactive thyroid.
Yep.
So I got really into it. I started trying to figure out, why is this happening? I didn't like being on the medication, Tapazole,
Uh-huh.
which basically slows down the thyroid, because they gave me the medication, and I'm not going to lie, I started getting chubby, and nobody likes to be chubby. So I said, okay, what is the body doing? What is it telling me? How do
Yeah.
I fix it? And so we start regulating the amount of iodine in our diet. Well, shellfish has iodine in it. Our iodized salt has iodine in it. I limited those items and then started eating things that were high in selenium and some other things. And suddenly my thyroid issue went into remission, and it's been in remission ever
Wow.
since. So the body was telling me there's something wrong, and it's just a change in the diet to the right diet for me, and it solved all of my health issues. So I look at health issues a lot of times as a symptom of something larger that we need to attack first before resorting to medicine, if that makes
So
sense.
you were your own health detective, as we say. Not
Yeah.
everybody can do that. That's fascinating.
And it didn't take me just like one or two tries. It took me years of really honing what was really going on in the body before I was able to figure it out. And I did my own blood tests. I went to different places, got the blood test, got the results, looked at it, and then try to determine based on what I was eating, because I'm a data driven person. I
Yeah.
like numbers, I like the data, and that's where nutrition, it helps, because
Yeah.
I can see what the data is telling me about a person's body and say, okay, well, that means that we need to eat more of this, or we need to eat
Yeah.
less of this. And it creates a better, well-rounded nutrition plan for the individual at that point.
Interesting. All right. Thank you so much. By the way, tell us how we can reach you one more time before we continue.
Absolutely. At tncoachingcollective.com, you can book a session, whether it be fitness, nutrition, or life coaching. You can also find out more about me there. And then you can also go to True North Motivation on Instagram as well.
All right, let's continue. What else did you want to share about the coaching you're doing again? Fitness, nutrition, but also life coaching. And there's still a lot to it, right?
Absolutely.
Go
So
to
when
the,
it comes to fitness and nutrition as well, I do package deals for people that are wanting a little bit of all inclusive. I have several clients that I've got them on life, fitness, and nutrition. You get large price breaks at that point as well,
Yeah.
because if I'm bringing you on in that respect, you're just one person, but I'm giving you
Yeah.
all that knowledge. And those clients tend to be the most successful when we're working on both their fitness and nutrition. And then at the same time, we're unpacking where they've been in life, getting more self
Okay.
awareness and all those things. Because the self awareness portion of what I do in life coaching, it really starts to get people to understand why they're making the decisions they're making.
Yeah.
And so, why do they continue to eat sweet foods? Why do they continue to duck the gym and not go when they know they're supposed to? And so, those clients that decide to take on all three tend to be the most successful in relationships and in their fitness goals, because they're looking at it from that same holistic perspective that I do.
Got it. Thank you. And the process of working with you, and again, you're working with people, is it all over the world at this point, right?
Absolutely. So I've
You're
got
worldwide.
clients in all sorts of countries. I got one in Sweden. I've got a couple in England. I've got one in South Africa right now. So yeah, I work with people all over the world. And the great part about that is that we find that between life coaching, fitness, nutrition,
Mhm.
these principles are worldwide. These aren't things that we think the
Yep.
world is so big, but really the world is so small. We relate to people on so many different levels. So, and even in my subscription side, on my Instagram, we have people from all sorts of countries and all sorts of walks of life that are in that subscription, and they're gaining that same understanding and awareness for themselves, and their relationships are flourishing. They're meeting their fitness goals. They're getting better at life. And it doesn't mean that just because we're in America or just because we're in this country that we can't relate to people in other countries.
Got it. All right. Well, also, I know we talked a lot, and just to bring this up as well, relationship coaching is a big thing that you do. Just how I'm just trying to evolve this together. It just seems like a fact to me. Ready? Every time you break up, you lose weight.
Well, we find one of two things are true. We either find you lose weight because you stop eating, or you gain weight because you emotionally eat, right? And
Ah,
so a lot of times that's the best. I call that catching someone on the rebound, right? We talk about it in dating, catching someone on the rebound, but that's when I want to catch them as a client of mine. If they have a breakup, is saying, hey, let's
okay.
talk about these things so we don't end up in that yo-yo where we gain weight or lose weight massively, and then we have to get our way back. So a lot of the life coaching stuff I do also surrounds resilience training.
Yeah.
So how to be resilient to those life changes. And when we talk about learning about ourselves, self-awareness starts bringing in this concept where we want to be resilient, right? Everyone wants more resilience.
Yeah.
And what we find is that life is still going to happen. Emotions are going to happen. We're going to get hurt
So
by
true.
people. We're going to get hurt by things people say to us,
Yeah.
but not allowing it to
Yep.
affect every aspect of our life by becoming emotionally reactive starts to bring us to a more even keel. So it's the concept that life is going to happen. It's how we react and deal with it that we can get better to where the waves don't feel like they're crashing as hard on us,
Yeah.
right? The waves don't feel like these massive 20-foot waves. They feel like these little 1 or 2 foot swell waves where we can ride that emotion and be like, okay, well, just because this person broke up with me doesn't mean I need to
Doesn't
throw
mean.
all of my discipline, into the wind and just stop going to the gym or stop worrying about my eating. When we do that, we actually bounce back from the heartbreak faster when we force ourselves to still be in the gym, to still eat right, to still do those things that we know we need to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. All right. Sorry to interrupt. What else did you want to let your listeners know?
So when you come on with me, the way the entire process works, right? So we sign up for a session, we book that session online. My practice sends you paperwork. I believe that I need to run as close to HIPAA compliant as I can as well. So they get a bunch of forms, and in there's going to be, my policy practices.
Uh-huh.
There's going to be some nutrition intake forms, or for fitness, there's a fitness
Okay.
intake form. That way I can really gauge where that person is, right off the bat. They get a 30-minute phone call right off the bat so I can assess where they're at, where their knowledge is. Then we send them basically all of my fitness and nutrition clients are on a 2-week plan. So everybody gets their fitness plan and or nutrition plan on Friday or Saturday so that they can
Okay.
start the following week. One of the big principles I coach is that we start on Monday, right? And if we have that idea that Monday starts both the work week and our fitness week, even if we fell off the bus, so to speak, on the
Yep.
week prior, when we go, okay, it's Monday, it's a new week.
So
Everything that
true.
happened last week is behind me,
Yep.
right? So everybody gets their stuff on Friday or Saturday morning. They have a
Okay.
chance to ask questions. If they need to book a second call, they can get a second call free of charge. So that way we can understand where their fitness and nutrition plan is. Then they start on Monday. Then once they start that plan, I check in with every single one
Okay.
of my clients on a daily basis and to make sure they're both working out, that they're getting the most out of that workout. If they have any questions, I allow them to take video. Like if they think that their form is off on something, they take a video of what they're doing. They
That's
send it to me
awesome.
and hey,
Yeah.
what do you think of my form? And I will correct them. And it's just, in my opinion, it's just as effective as
Yeah.
being able to do it while I'm one-on-one training, because a lot of times they don't
It's
want somebody hovering
uh,
over them. They want to work out themselves, but they just need
no,
that little bit of reassurance that yes,
I
I am
get
doing
it.
the form correctly and I am getting enough out of it. So we do those check-ins daily. And then when they get close to the end of that fitness and nutrition plan, they turn a tracker sheet into me when it comes to both fitness and nutrition.
Yep.
What did we get done? It's kind of like a homework. And I find doing those actually holds them accountable, because they're like, well, crap, I know I
Yeah.
got to turn this in, right? It's
Yeah.
just like high school or just like college. And some people, it's super effective to say, I'm going to track my workouts, I'm going to track my nutrition, and I'm going to turn
Right.
this into you. So that way, then it gives me something
So
great to
true.
say, this is how I'm going to help you build the next one. Because again, nutrition, it's not a here's your plan, we're done. It's I've got to continue to refine that plan. And so by seeing what you actually ate versus what I asked you to eat and seeing where our gaps are, it then opens up questions of, okay, so why didn't we eat as good as we should have? Was there a
Yep.
reason why we didn't do this? And so we dive into those problems to help hold them even more accountable, but make sure that we're, even with clients that are eating everything I ask them to eat, they're not losing the weight. And they're like, well, I figured if I ate all what you asked me to eat, I'd lose weight. Then we start looking at the other symptoms. Like for women, where are you in your menstruation cycle? It is actually very, very important, because you tend to hold water differently at that time of the month, right? And so by understanding that all of those body functions are going on, we can understand whether or not the diet plan is actually working and where we need to hone it. Do we need to go up in calories? Do we need to go down in calories? Do we need to change how much protein or how much carbohydrates or how much fats you're eating? So it gives me a bigger picture when I have that tracking sheet. And then we just make sure we make the adjustments, and then we put out new plans that next Friday and Saturday, and we start attacking again. But I find that 2 weeks to be the best as far as not making any changes. So many people in nutrition, they do a diet for a week and they're like, oh, it's not working. I didn't lose any weight. And they knee jerk to something else. And a lot of the Crohn's disease type problems can come from that repeated trauma of changing our diet on a repeated basis because we think it's not working. The body can't respond to it. So 2 weeks is a good time to get me enough data to say, is it working or is it not working? And then just make the adjustments from there. And most of my clients overall spend about 8 to 10 weeks with me, between either if it's just fitness, just nutrition, or all of it. Because by that point, I've given them enough knowledge that they can build these plans themselves, and they know how to make the adjustments of, okay, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm trying to gain muscle. What do I do to these calorie intakes so I can make sure I make the right decision? The other thing that is really critical in the nutrition side is everybody likes to go out to eat, right? Who doesn't? And when you go out to eat, that's the thing that terrifies people that are trying to eat healthy, right? Because it's hard to find options. So what I do is I tell them, look, when you're going out to eat, ask me what I think of your meal choice, right? Just send me what you ate or what you're planning on eating, and we'll talk about it real quick as you're sitting there at the table. In those moments, they feel so supported, because they feel like either one, that I'm validating they're making the right decision, or B, where they were like, well, I thought this one or I thought that one, then I can help them to understand that choice. So in the moment, they can make better choices when they're out to eat. And again, after about 8 to 10 weeks, when they've had enough of those times going out to eat and figuring themselves out, they finally say, I can do this on my own because I have the ability to make those good decisions in the moment.
See? Ah, that's great. I know, guilty when you eat out. It's so hard, right? You can only ask
Absolutely.
the chef to prepare something or just eat the sides. But sometimes those vegetables, you ask for them steamed, sometimes there's butter on them. Yeah, got to be careful with that one. But that's great. You're so accessible. I mean, is this like 24/7 or is there like a limit? Like, don't call you at 2 in the morning.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if they call me at 2 in the morning, I'm not going to be able to answer them. If they're going to the bar and they're trying to ask me which drink they should drink. But when it comes to, on a daily basis, I tell them, look, if you know you're going out to
Uh,
eat, text me about an hour
yeah.
before. That way I can make sure I'm available. But for most things, I tell my clients, just make sure you give me about 30 to 45 minutes to respond, and I will respond. I make myself available. I mean, I'm already up. I get up at 3 a.m. every single day, and I'm in the gym at 3:30 a.m. and I spend that time till 9 o'clock at night every single night available to my clients because
Wow.
I don't get to choose when my client is in a moment where they need help,
Yeah.
right? And that's where a lot of times, if they don't get that help that they need, they say, I screw it. I'm just going to go ahead and make the decision, and then they feel guilty afterwards, and that's what knocks them off the bus. So I don't get to choose when they need that time to get the help. So by making myself available, they get the help they need. It reinforces good behaviors,
Yeah.
and they can then be able to make those better decisions because they got the help when they needed it, not 3 or 4 or 5 days later when they're not in that moment anymore, when they can't remember why they made the choices they made.
Very true. All right. In our last 2 minutes we have left here, how did you kind of want to sum up for today?
So if you look at everything that I do, the fitness, the life, the nutrition, it all plays into each other. It's that holistic looking at the body and why it's doing what it's doing. Fitness and nutrition is my bread and butter, but I find that bringing the life coaching, the self awareness, the understanding of the reasons why we make the decisions we make,
Yeah.
and we get better at those decisions, we get more disciplined, we get more consistent. And as we bring those in, we're able to control our actions in those moments where we want that cookie, when we want that donut, when we want to
Oh,
say,
yeah.
screw the diet in that moment.
Uh-huh.
We're able to have the discipline to say, no, my health really is more important. But it takes understanding our decisions and why we do the things we do, why we end up in those negative patterns of behavior that really knock us off the wagon, so to speak.
It's very true. Well, thank you so much for being here. Always a pleasure having you here. And if we want to reach out, and I apologize, I obviously have a little bit of a cold today. That's why I sound so nasal and I'm blowing my nose. It happens, right? Um, drink as much fluids as I can.
Absolutely.
How do we reach out to you?
Okay, so you can find me at either True North Motivation on Instagram, or you can get me at tncoachingcollective.com. And again, you can book coaching there. You can book life coaching. You can even book a discovery call to find out if we're even a good fit to begin with. I also have apparel on sale there. Obviously, this shirt that
Yep.
says discipline is one of my best sellers because people love seeing that when they look in the mirror, they
So
say,
true.
yes, I am disciplined. It's that self-affirmation kind of stuff, right?
God
But I've
bless.
got clothing that goes along with everything I do as well. So you can look on there. I mean, I've got coffee cups, all sorts of stuff. So
Thank you again. Great having you here again. True North Coaching, tncoachingcollective.com. Reach out. Thank you for being here. As always, well prepared to talk about your craft, your passion, your love, and helping so many again with life coaching, with fitness, with nutrition, and so much more. Combination of everything. All right. Thank you
absolutely.
again. We'll talk soon. Have
Thank
a
you.
great
Thank you.
day. Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.